Hello. I don't know much about the furry subculture or the furry community, but I just read a horror novel, The Cellar, by Richard Laymon for Garbaugust, a BookTube event created by Olly at Criminale. I just read a book that makes me think that this is sort of a furry horror novel. There is a furry connection here. Now, if you've read this book, you might disagree with me. And really, I'm trying to make this humorous point just to lighten the mood. This was a very nasty, trashy, awful book. There's some interesting things here, but overall, it's not a very good book. So when I talk about it, I'm going to try to lighten the mood here, and the furries are going to help us do that. The awful monster flesh furries, I'm going to call them. So this is Joe's Book and Movie Corner. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this is a weekly reading report. I'm going to talk about a variety of different books and subjects. I'm going to talk we're going to go over a lot of Star Trek. I'm currently participating in BookTrek 2025. This is another event created by Vin at Revenant Reads. So I'm going to talk about several different books. I'm going to talk about a movie. If you want to get right to the good stuff, head down to the descriptions and you'll see timestamps. So if you want to just go immediately and find out what am I talking about with the monstrous, horrible flesh furries. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a movie I watched. And I should say this was not this week. I'm doing this like a week late, so this is all 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter. Who cares? So this is Pandorum from 2009, starring Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster. It's a sci-fi horror movie. I liked it quite a bit, although I did have some problems with it. It's kind of... To me, it reminded me of a movie like Event Horizon or another Paul W. Sanderson movie, Soldier. Really fun sci-fi movies. Event Horizon has also horror. But it has some identifiable flaws. And you could kind of nitpick it to death. And this is kind of the same way. It's about a deep space colony ship that's going to some distant star system. And they have a bunch of their passengers, the colonists, are in long-term hypersleep, and there's the different departments in the crew that kind of work in cycles. So, for example, Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster are on the flight crew. So they work on the bridge. They're on flight crew number 5. And the idea is that flight crew number 4, when their shift is over after, I don't know how, several years, I would imagine, they're supposed to wake up the next team, and flight crew 5 will take over. So Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid, they wake up on their own. No one is there to wake them up. So they wake up, and when you wake up out of hypersleep, you're just confused. You don't know what's going on. No one is waking this up. What's going on? They're stuck in their little hypersleep room, and something has clearly gone wrong in the ship. As they're gaining their memories back, they know this is not right, and we need to break out of this room. We need to split up. And we need to, make our way to the bridge, make our way to the reactor room. What's going on? Is there anyone else awake on the ship? And if they are, we need to find them, and we need to figure out what the problem is. And so Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid split up. There's also the title, Pandorum, is a reference to the fact that if you're in hypersleep for a long time, you can get the space brain scramblies, and you can start to get paranoid. And, you can wreak havoc with your paranoia, and you start to hallucinate and have visions. So after Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid, they split up, you start to wonder, can I trust what I'm seeing? Which one of these guys has Pandorum? And of course, they're going to come across other people that are awake, people that have been awake longer than them. And it's really, really good. And there's some monstery things on the ship. There's a few things I didn't like about it. There's some stylistic action scenes that are very mid-2000. This movie is 2009, so from about 2005 to 2010, there's a certain action style that you'll sometimes see in movies. Just a general kind of late Tony Scott stylization that I'm not really a big fan of. The editing can be a little hyperactive. So I didn't really like that aspect, some of the action scenes. And also, there's a big long exposition scene that seems like it was put together in the editing room maybe, and then there's an action scene at the end, the big climactic action scene, which again, it doesn't have tension. It's missing tension. It should be much more exciting and tense than it is. And it feels like they just they kind of had a shot list that they were working on, and it doesn't quite come together somehow. But those are pretty minor complaints. The movie overall is really, really good. It's a lot of fun. If you like sci-fi horror and you haven't seen this, absolutely check this out. You're really going to like it. And next up, let's talk about BookTrek. And before we talk about the novels that I read, and I read 2 of them, let's mention what I watched for Star Trek. I watched Strange New Worlds Season 2. And a couple weeks ago, I watched Season 1. I loved it so much, I had to seek out Season 2 on Blu-ray. I really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun. Overall, most of the episodes have a lighter tone, which is fine. But what I like about it is that it's episodic Star Trek. After Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, this is such a breath of fresh air. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait for Season 3 to come out on Blu-ray. I don't have Paramount Plus, so I'm just going to wait for it to come out on disc. But I'm really looking forward to Season 3. There's some episodes some people might not like. There's a musical episode. It didn't bother me. I thought it was fun. It was great. I really like Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If you're a Star Trek fan, you could watch this show and nitpick it to death. Don't do that. Just watch it. It's episodic. It's good. Yes, it's very 2020s. Just accept it. It's really good. Okay, so let's talk about some books, finally. So the first Star Trek novel I read, this is all BookTrek here, for these next 2 books, is Planet of Judgment by Joe Haldeman. This is an older Star Trek novel. It's from what's known as the Bantam Books era, when the Star Trek books could be a little more adventurous. And overall, Joe Haldeman I know he's an excellent writer. I've read The Forever War. That was a masterpiece of science fiction. This, unfortunately, was not very good. Objectively, it's bad. There's many interesting concepts and ideas that are introduced. It starts out with the Enterprise finds I think they call it a rogue planet, but then it's also orbiting a black hole. It's not a rogue planet to me. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But yeah, so this planet that might be manufactured, orbiting a black hole that might be manufactured, and that's really cool. But that cool idea is then abandoned once they get to the planet, and then there's this like non-corporeal race that they deal with, and then but it's not really about them. It's about this other. It keeps switching gears. There's also a slew of guest characters that are introduced then nothing is done with them, with the exception of one security officer. Some good stuff is done with him. So there's really good elements in the book. I didn't dislike the reading experience. One thing I like about it is that it's very violent and gory. If a red shirt dies, it's horrific. Space travel is dangerous. But yeah, as you kind of see in my description of it, it just keeps switching gears. There's too much going on, especially for something so thin. And then another problem I had with it was at the end. This is the third Trek book that I've read this year that ends on kind of this non-literal power of the mind dream sequence where we have to use the power of our willpower and the power of thought to defeat the enemy. And sometimes that can be good. In Diane Duane's The Wounded Sky, I think it's pretty interesting. In Spock Must Die ends kind of like that. I kind of liked it. But in this, it was like, all right, enough. Come up with something more concrete and more creative. This is starting to wear thin a little bit. So overall, I don't recommend this book. It's not totally unenjoyable, but it's not good. But I enjoyed it. Next up, we have Star Trek Voyager number 3, Ragnarok by Nathan Archer. This I thought was a better novel, but it didn't quite live up to its premise. So it's Voyager number 3, so it's early on. If this were an episode, it would need to be a very early season 1 episode. And the reason I say that is because some of the characters feel a little... Janeway herself feels a little off. She kind of reminds me of season 1 Next Generation Picard. She just seems like really mean. She's also very dismissive of Neelix, like way more mean to him than she ever is on the show. And then Neelix and Kes are still very much not a part of the crew. They're still outsiders. But what is it about? It's the events of caretaker, the pilot, have recently happened. So they're still trying to find the caretaker's companion. And they see this, they're approaching this star cluster that Neelix says, we need to go around that. He's still the guide of the Delta Quadrant at this point. And he says, we need to go around that because there's these two races that are just in this centuries-long war, and it's never ending, and everyone in this part of the Delta Quadrant avoids the star cluster. Well, they find this signal. It's like a tachyon beam or something. I can't remember. They find this signal, and Janeway thinks that, okay, this might, there's a chance that this could be the caretaker's companion. And I'm going to be honest, it's been a while since I've seen the Voyager pilot, so I'm just going, I don't really remember what the companion's deal was. It doesn't matter. So anyway, we're going to go, Janeway's like, screw you, Neelix, we're going into this star cluster. I don't care that there's a war going on. Neelix says, you'll be sorry. Neelix, get off the bridge. So before they encounter these aliens, the book is really good. We see these worlds that have been stripped of all their metal. They're like these ghost worlds. And there's like asteroid fields that used to be planets. And we find like dead corpses floating on asteroids. It's creepy. It's good. And then when we get to the war, I won't tell too much. I won't give away too much of it. But we see like two fleets going at it. And it's really interesting and cool. So that's really good. And then they realize that this signal is like they have to go through the war to find out this space signal-y thing that might be the companion. And while we're here, while we're Starfleet, we're the Federation, we should help people. We should try to help these people solve their problems through talking and dialogue. And that's very noble. So I'm going to hone in on one nitpick here. They send Chakotay out in a shuttle with an away team, and the idea is that, we'll try to talk to one side, and maybe we can get on one of their ships and we can talk to them. And as Chakotay is waiting outside, like right next to these two warring fleets, he decides, well, I gotta have to keep the away team busy, so let's do some maintenance on the shuttle. Let's realign the warp coils when we're next to a war. And I'm reading this going why? No, Chakotay would not do that. That's crazy. Why would you turn your engine off? And sure enough, something bad, the war starts coming at them, and they're like, oh, let's get out of here. Sorry, sir, you told me to fix the engines. The engines are offline. Well, crap. Anyway, that's a very specific nitpick I had. He would not do that. Anyway, Chakotay was an idiot in this book. So I won't give too much away. The book just kind of slows down. Once they get to the war, there's some really cool stuff here. The war itself is interesting, but the book loses steam. And I'm not giving too much away by saying this, but their idea is you want to see them help these people solve their differences through dialogue and communication. And spread the Federation love or whatever. And they don't really do that. And it kind of becomes, we just need to get the heck out of here because this is dangerous. And so they don't really accomplish that promise. Now, in the resolving action of the book, after the climax and the last few pages, it is revealed that they do affect some change. And it is kind of in a funny, interesting way. But still, it's not really a part of the story. It's not a part of the climax of the story. So the book just shifts to where we got in this bad situation. We really should have listened to Neelix. Let's get out of here. Ooh, screw these people. Or let's just leave. Then they're just trying to leave. And that's the action of the third act. So, it's a decent book. It's an enjoyable read. If you're into Voyager, yeah, I'd recommend it. It's not the best. I haven't read many Voyager books. It's not the best one. Number 2. I think it was called The Escape, is much better. But this one's okay. It's not bad. All right, so now the main event. Your featured book for Garbaugust 2025, a booktube event created by Olly Criminali. I read, as I've previously mentioned, The Cellar by Richard Laymon. And if you don't know who Richard Laymon is, I think he's a perfect author for Garbaugust. He writes some sleazy books. This is the second novel I've read by him. It is his, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first book. And you can tell, I'm just going to say, there are some, fair warning here, I'm talking about furry culture. My perception of it is that there is a very strong adult element to furries. This book has some very... I'm going to make that connection with this book. It's all of a sexual nature. And also this book, I'm using this to lighten the mood, but this book is really nasty. And there's some child abuse, some very, very horrible, awful, nasty child abuse in it, which I'm going to frankly talk about. So here's your warning. So if you want to tune out, hope you enjoyed the Star Trek talk. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. But anyway, let's get to it. The book's not very good. What is it about? There's a house in this small town in California that for the past nearly 100 years, or 80 years or whatever, if you are in this house at night, eventually this monster is going to come out at night and kill you. And it's killed off like 2 different families. And throughout the years, people kind of sneak into this house late at night and something comes out and kills them. Is it a monster? Is it someone dressed up as a monster? We don't know yet. We're pretty sure it's a monster. I mean, it's revealed in the beginning. Yes, it is really a monster. And so that's kind of... Yeah, that's the house. The main characters, I didn't write down the names of these characters, so it doesn't matter. And by the way, there are going to be some minor spoilers here. I'm not going to ruin the book for you if you know this stuff. So there's a mother and a daughter. So they're on the run from their home. The woman's ex-husband, Roy, that's the one name I remember. He just got out of prison, and he's a really nasty fellow. We know that he's abused. So he has sexually abused his daughter. Probably, I think he's been physically abusive to the wife. Really, really a horrible, horrible person. He's an abusive husband and a child molester. And he's out of prison for some reason. We don't know the details. It's how could they let this guy out? And as you learn more about him, we switch to his point of view. And not only is he a abusive husband, child molester, but he's also apparently a serial killer. Like when he gets out of prison, it's ridiculous. He immediately starts just slicing throats left and right. And I start to have problems here. Like this guy is so, and Richard Laymon, I think, is trying to make him so unlikable that you just, as a reader, you want to indulge in a revenge bloodlust as the reader. And that's okay. He immediately gets out of prison. He's trying to go after the wife and his daughter. And the wife and the daughter are on the run. So the wife and the daughter, they're on the run from this horrible husband. And they're going to make their way towards this small town where this house is. So they're stuck between, they're heading towards this house with a beast, this monster. And they're running away from a monster. And both things have the very highly sexualized nature to them. Both of them involve, I'm just going to say, both of them involve rape. And, speaking of that, Roy, after he slices up, he finds this family and he kills them. And he takes this, this is really nasty. He takes the 10-year-old daughter. And though the book, it's not quite as graphic as the book, like the book seems more graphic than it really is. Richard Laymon stops before anything really nasty happens. But it's still really, really awful what he writes, what he's doing to this poor 10-year-old girl. But it's he kills her parents and takes her as a sex slave. He's a 10-year-old girl. And again, if his goal is to get you to hate this character, mission accomplished, but why? It's ridiculous that he's also a serial killer. It's just over the top and way, way too much. And the abuse of the little girl is never really dealt with in any meaningful way. This is all stuff that people have commented on. There's also a guy that teams up with the wife and the daughter. He's a guy that was like this mercenary assassin on the African continent. And he's living in this apartment building and he has insomnia. And in this night of shared insomnia with his older neighbor reveals that, hey, I was almost a victim of this beast at this house when I was a little boy. And they just decide that night, okay, well, let's go kill this thing. I mean, the assassin guy doesn't really believe that it's real, but I mean, clearly there's real murders are happening. So they just decide on a bout of insomnia, on a whim, yeah, let's go to this town. And they meet up with the wife and the daughter, and all of a sudden the guy's in love with the wife. All these characters are very thin, and stuff just happens way too fast. Anyway, so that's kind of the whole setup. Now I guess to kind of balance out the nastiness, this furry connection. What do I mean by this furry? So the beast, and readers who have read this might talk about, what are you talking about? This thing's not a furry. But I interpreted this beast as kind of a monstrous, hairless furry. And it does have a sexual element. It does rape its victims. So there's a sexual element. Not to say that, again, I might be casting some bad light on the furries. If you're out there watching, I apologize. But, this thing, I viewed it not so much as humanoid. I mean, I think it's described more as ape-like. But it's at a certain point, it mentions that the beast has a snout. So in my mind, I saw it as this like hairless werewolf type thing, and its genitals are described in great detail, and it's like this fantastic demon member. And again, maybe I don't want to make assumptions about this furry community, but I know that there's an element of this subculture that, that's kind of interesting. I don't know. And anyway, I had to think this stuff because the rest of the book was so horrible. I had to kind of make fun of it in some way. As the climax of the book starts, another problem I have with it is the ending is very, very abrupt. We have this character, Roy, who is this abusive, child molesting, rapist, serial killer who somehow just let out of prison. Wait, that's not explained. And we hate this guy. As a reader, you hate this guy. And you're thinking, okay, he commits acts of sexual violence. This monster commits acts of sexual violence. They're going to meet. He's going to be chased the wife. They're going to meet. And something bad is going to happen to this guy. Again, this is a minor spoiler territory here, but you know how stories work. You know where this is going. And it was kind of a letdown. I mean, if you're going to have this beast and horrible things happen, I feel like if you make me hate a character, you should save the most horrific, violent stuff for that character. If you're going to have him rape a child, I want to see this character get what's coming to him. I'm indulging in a revenge fantasy as the reader. And you don't really get that. Something horrible happens to him, but it's so quick. And it's just, oh, okay, he's gone. And also the end of the book, minor spoilers here. There's some cool stuff here. Again, we see a sexual element of the beast, which is actually kind of horrific and kind of interesting. It's, that's kind of interesting. But it all happens very, very abruptly. The characters never... So there's one really good part of the book where the characters, they find this journal of the beast's first appearance in 1903. And we just read these journal entries from the turn of the century, and it's really wild. And it kind of reads like... Again, I don't know anything about this culture. It reads like... I don't know, like this weird fantasy erotica fiction about this kind of slightly humanoid monster, and it's a really good part of the book. It's really entertaining, and it's written in this old-fashioned style. It's totally bonkers. That part's really good. But then the characters, no one ever, when it's apparent that this thing is real, no one questions like, what is this thing? Where did it come from? Why does it have a demon member? What is it? No one questions it, and in the end of the book, as it's revealed some more of the sexuality of this thing, and it, does it kind of attract, or certain people attracted to it, that is never really explored in depth. It's just introduced, kind of a cool idea, and then the book is over. So overall, it's not a good book. I did not like it, but I did enjoy thinking about why it wasn't a good book. But the child abuse stuff is just, and there's the character that's being abused. Again, minor spoiler here. It's not a big deal. That little girl, her character her story just kind of ends. Her abuse is not dealt with in any meaningful way, and it's like, okay, well, what was the point of that?
Anyway, it's if you want a shocking book, it's kind of a curiosity. I think Richard Laymon. I'm reading In the Dark right now by him, by the way. That book is really, really good. It's much, much better. Endless Night, I thought, was a horrific book that was ultimately much better. This book was mission accomplished, Garbaugust. I read some trash. It's trashy. It's sleazy. But that's all for now. This video is coming a week late, so hopefully in a couple days I should have another weekly reading report ready to go for you. But that's all for now. Thank you.